Today, we will hear from a leader of a country from Southeast Eastern Europe, the President of the Republic of Kosovo, who will share with us how this region is changing. A region which only recently emerged from bloody conflicts by opening a new chapter, including the dialogue between the Republic of Kosovo and the Republic of Serbia, facilitated by the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the great honor to welcome the President of the Republic of Kosovo, Madam Atifete Jahjaga.
Good afternoon, dear Ange Klein, ladies and gentlemen. The hardest talks and the speeches are especially after the lunch and after the coffee breaks, but I will try to do our best to finish in time. It is a pleasure to be here today with you and share what we have been up to in Kosovo. Let me start by saying how honored I am to be in Vienna, in this friendly country which has helped Kosovo and the region overcome its bitter past. Today, I want to discuss with you an important undertaking of the institutions of Kosovo and its people to press on with normalizing the relation with our neighbors and to open new chapters of cooperation. As we began to pursue the membership into the European Union, we faced an important realization. European Union will not import conflicts. The relations in the Balkans among countries continue to remain fragile, difficult, and distrustful. We have not managed to build a bridge between us despite some important steps that we have made in the last decade to change the mistaken perception of each other. Yet what has been unimaginable just a year ago, the dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia, became the biggest success because the idea of the European integration, the idea of cooperation and agreement prevailed. Though we exist as distinct states and are masters of our own fates, our future is interconnected, especially as we aspire to join a union that stands for peaceful coexistence and economic interdependence. We had to find the strength and courage to address what has been most difficult in the last decade, to open the chapter of the political reconciliation with Serbia, and to accommodate the Serbian community that lives in the northern part of Kosovo, which was held hostage by Serbia's refusal to accept the reality of an independent Kosovo. It is with this conviction that we have approached the dialogue with Serbia. The dialogue, facilitated by the European Union and supported by the United States, is the only way to restart our relationship as equals. The dialogue is meant to ensure stability and reduce tensions in the region through solutions that make use of the best European standards and practices. We have entered the process of dialogue convinced that only through it we can achieve the needed stability to consolidate our states, to jumpstart our economies, and to build neighborly relations which will secure our European future. In this process, we have sought political and social inclusiveness. For it has been a major investment that surpassed ideological boundaries and daily politics. Because I strongly believe it determines the path of our country and it touches the lives of every citizen. In the efforts to build consensus, we have witnessed skepticism, which must be understood in the context of our past with Serbia, and numerous failed agreements that have caused much suffering to the citizens of my country, where the memory of the war and its consequences are still fresh, as the recent discovery of the mass grave believed to hold the bodies of Albanian civilians just across the border in Serbia, reminds us. As the leader of the highest institution in my country, I have supported the dialogue between two independent countries, including my meeting with the President of Serbia and Brussels last year. Committed to turn the page and help in building a new vision for the future of the whole region. No country can hold hostage the future of our citizens. This past year alone, we have concluded agreements on dissolution of the illegal Serb structures that have operated in the northern part of our country. We have successfully absorbed members of that community in the Kosovo police force. We have held the local elections for the first time in the whole territory of Kosovo, electing legitimate mayors and councillors that we trust represent the will of Kosovo citizens. We have also reached agreements on energy, integrated border management, transport, tax and customs, documents, and we have opened liaising offices in both capitals. Agreements which ensure stability and certainty, agreements which offer more security for the entire region. These agreements must be fully implemented, and the progress in the process of normalization between Kosovo and Serbia must be assessed chapter by chapter, step by step. By assessing the implementation of every facet of the agreement and by ensuring the successful completion of each implementation period until we reach its end. Kosovo and Serbia must build a partnership based on a mutual recognition as the last step towards the integration into the European Union. No aspiring EU country should be allowed to hinder another state in this process, and this is especially true in the case of Kosovo and Serbia. Thus, the mutual recognition between the two countries through a legally binding treaty must open the path to both countries to become members of the European Union. The European Union cannot allow obstacles on the path to the aspirant states because such a deed would block the further development. It would create a new period of disagreements in the Western Balkans, yet again bringing to a halt its overall progress. That's why our path to the European Union must be conditioned with cementing peace at home. We want to see the structured dialogue continue until it's needed, yet be time-limited and result-driven. But mostly a dialogue that will continue to be facilitated by the European Union and supported by the United States, that will also guarantee the full implementation of the agreements reached thus far. We have invested a lot in the dialogue, and we must press forward with a commitment to find acceptable solution for the citizens of Kosovo, for the normalization of the relations of the two countries. Because we have many urgent tasks at the hand, a large portion of which involves the strengthening of democratic institutions at home and meeting the needs of our citizens. The economic development, especially opportunities that create jobs and revive our economies, must take a central role. Because this demand is emerging as the common denominator of Albanians and Serbs alike. It is their shared concern. Yet we understand that both of issues are linked, as is the dialogue between our citizens whose trust in each other has been shaken since the period of the repression and the war in Kosovo. A trust that is gradually being rebuilt between us, the citizens of the Republic of Kosovo, who want to live in peace, who aspire a better life. So our job is not finished. Through dialogue, we sought to create an inclusive and democratic state. built jointly by Kosovo citizens and with a generous help of the international community. Kosovo is not a place that will share its sovereignty with another state. It is not a country that harbors any territorial ambitions towards its neighboring states. We aim to build an inclusive country where cultures coexist, where we work hard in regaining waived trust between communities and re-establishing the bonds of communications that were once torn. We want to make sure that we have reinstated the dialogue with our citizens in each corner of the country, with all the communities, because we want Kosovo to become a country of equal citizens and a place that puts the rule of law and order, tolerance and respect as a cornerstone of our efforts. The Republic of Kosovo is not an interim project, but a permanent fact and an undeniable reality, and its territorial integrity cannot and will not be compromised. Serbia must give up the idea of Kosovo's division along ethnic lines. It should give up its claim that it must exchange a part of its territory, and it should surrender the idea of the frozen conflict. No one can decide on behalf of Kosovo aside from citizens of Kosovo and their legitimate representatives. No one has a right to decide the future fate of Kosovo and its citizens, but they. Our shortcoming on building this inclusivity so far was imposed by Serbia's continuous influence on Kosovo's Serb community, complicating their understanding of the reality in which they found themselves and blocking their representations in the institutions of Kosovo. Which also brings me to the security as the key element in developing a country, and surely one of the main principles that ensure the progress of a society, bringing people of different communities together, including the skeptics. Security is the essence of the mutual cooperation between nations and countries, because it guarantees peace and opens avenues of progress. For a while, Southeastern Europe was a hot spot of insecurity that has generated instability, displacement, and flight of the citizens to countries of the European Union. We have yet to extend security to every corner of our country, a safe environment for our citizens, especially in the northern part of our country, where criminal elements continue to be active and where illegal security structures supported by Serbia have operated since the end of the war. Extending the rule of law throughout Kosovo is necessary, because only through that process we will prevent a flare-up of interethnic tensions. Only through the establishment of the rule of law we shall prevent the scenes of election violence at polling stations and countless instances of intimidation. Regretfully, as last week's murder of a Serbian councillor and a former mayoral candidate attest, the consequence will be grave if each side is not pressed to deliver on the establishment of the rule of law. Dear participants, our path to the European Union is the path that brings together all the citizens of my country, regardless of their background. It is the objective and the main priority of every citizen of the Republic of Kosovo, and I strongly believe that this sentiment is shared by the rest of the citizens of the Southeastern Europe. We have been asked multiple times what Europe offers to us and what we offer to Europe. The European Union is the only and irreplaceable project that has spread its vast influence and has played a transformative role, not only in the economies of its member states, but also in the aspirant countries and our societies as a whole. For decades, Europe has marked a great progress and has overcome differences between different countries. The idea of the European Union continues to be the biggest project that has united peoples in peace and prosperity. And it has brought upon them freedom of movement, political and economic stability, and mutual understanding. And this is why European Union is our joint objective. Of the countries of the southeastern Europe, and this European project can only be completed with the inclusion of everyone in its midst. The European wholeness is achieved by the integration of our countries. We still have to work on becoming a part of this grand idea. We understand that our paths, the paths of our respective countries towards the European Union, are conditioned. Initially, with the building of the careful and good neighboring relations and the respect for the certain standards and norms. We understand that this path is difficult because it determines and demands from us the accomplishment of our internal reforms, which should not be conducted for the sake of the Europe, but for the sake of our citizens and their general well-being. It will certainly help us in bringing our citizens closer, and it will guarantee the overall stability of the region, which continues to be dependent on the integration process. The clear and open perspective is necessary. Kosovo and its immediate neighbors are an inseparable part of the European Union. European Union's integration is not only a vision, but it's also the best and the only option for the entire region of southeastern Europe. I thank you very much for your attention.